But Marty's gone back in time. There's all sorts of things going on. So I don't think they ever would have become friends unless Doc knew they were supposed to be friends. A question for you guys. What do you call this sound right here? Does anyone know what this is called? What is that called?
Does anybody know in the comments?
Yeah, please let us know.
We know that we're pretty sure there is
there
word.
There has to be something.
If there's...
Definitely.
Has to be 100%.
It's like click.
Yes. Okay, so what do you call a time-traveling cow? Dr. Moo. Like Doctor Who, but I had to explain it so I know it's bad.
Okay,
yeah.
it's pretty bad, but...
Yeah.
And time traveling was the only thing apropos of the
Here's
movie.
another one. Doctor, I can see the future. When did this start? Next Thursday.
Oh.
It's a thinker.
That's
it's a think
that's
piece.
actually smart.
My personal favorite, because I don't think we'll be doing a time traveling movie for a little bit longer. I found a way to time travel. It's called sleeping.
Yeah, I like the
Oh,
other
okay.
one better.
Go to the future. That's pretty good.
Go to the
Yeah,
future.
because I do like sleep. Anyway, hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the podcast of Antimatter Movies. I'm Jonathan.
I'm Evan.
And I'm David.
That's right. And what are we talking about today?
Well, a movie?
That's true. Yeah, not a film, but a movie. No, it's a film too. It's a film.
I guess actually this would be a film and a movie.
Well, this is not my favorite film.
This
It's
is
close to it.
Yeah.
This is not mine, but I will tell you this movie, when we say what it is, happens to exist as this series as a trilogy that I really like.
Guys, you don't need to play footsie around it because people who clicked on this podcast have already seen the title and know we're talking about Back to the Future Part 3.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't watch that one.
All right, yeah.
Yeah, no.
It's a trilogy? What?
No, it's one of those ones.
Yes, it is. But anyway, before we get into it, you know what social media people are about. Feel free to leave a comment, 5-star review, comment.
Please, feel free.
Complain to us. Email us at antimattermovies@gmail.com.
You don't like what we're wearing, let us know.
Yeah, if you have a general problem with any of us, then go ahead and let us know, okay?
I think I want people to have a general problem because
That means
then
they're interested.
Exactly.
I would also go for a specific problem as well. Yeah.
Yeah, if you're going to be insulting, you should do it with specificity.
Yeah.
You should, yeah.
As insulting as possible.
Compliments
That's
can
best.
be general,
Yeah.
but insults should be specific.
And I like talking about insults because Back to the Future 3, actually Back to the Future 2, has to do a lot with insults.
There's
too.
a lot of them.
There's a big thing about insults with the whole like Marty McFly and being called Yellow Belly.
Oh, and they continue it in this one too. That's actually sort of like, in a way, it's kind of like retconning because he didn't have that issue in the first movie. Then they had to do some sort of a through line to tie it back around. So they're like, okay, let's manufacture a fake character arc for him so it looks like something actually happened.
Right.
Yeah.
I never thought about that because if you think about those of us that weren't exposed to like certain things in the vernacular or like make like a tree and get out of here. Like those are things that our grandparents would know, but we really wouldn't have had exposure to without these movies.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So this one is both sort of a return to form of the original movie, but it also does its own thing because basically, I mean, they pay homage and replicate certain scenes from the first one, like the whole like instead of the clock tower, it's the train. When they're going through like the miniature like or planning out the entire how they're going to get the car to go 80
just
miles
like
an hour.
the other one.
Instead of Marty's mom, it's Clara coming in and stuff like that. So they sort of like paid homage, but they reversed it to where instead of Marty doing all the interaction, now it's Doc Brown doing all the interaction, which is kind of cool.
Well, I think it is because it is interesting because if you think about it, the first one is about the parents, the second one is about Marty, and then the third one is about Doc Brown, and you actually get to see how he is more of a human in a way, not just a scientist.
I saw a Bob Gale interview in revisiting this, and it was very interesting because he said that they made a conscious decision to develop Doc and have Marty be the more adult in the third one, and to develop Doc because he was very much not window. What's the word for? I can't think of the phrase all off of the top of my head all of a sudden. But basically, like, to flesh him out more as a character and a human
Doc
being.
is definitely portrayed in some
more
ways
childish.
as an adolescent.
Yes.
I'll say, because it's first love.
I got a
and
kick out of that.
He has his first love.
Right.
Probably, how old is he then? Supposed to be in his 60s or something like that.
Right.
So it's pretty fun to see him in that way, and also for a character like Christopher Lloyd, who is not usually the leading man for a romantic comedy, to actually fall in love and to play the romantic lead. It's really nice.
It's cool.
How did Clara describe him in the movie? Was he silver haired?
Silver haired with puffy eyes.
Yeah, like that. Cute, cute puppy dog eyes that are brown or something like that. But
yeah.
The characterization, there was one moment that really like stood out to me a lot in this movie was in the beginning when they're reading Doc Brown's note, or actually no, something that they're in the mine shaft and they find the car, and then Marty's reading the note and he can't pronounce the word schematic.
Yes.
And I'm just like, wait,
I did not remember.
Did they dumb him down for this one a little bit? And it made me think about more Rick and Morty, how in Rick and Morty, Morty's the dumb one. His dumb waves counteract Rick's smart waves and stuff like that. But it also made me think about, I was mentioning to you guys that I had a revelation about their relationship.
Yes, you did.
They never talk about how they met. But
no, they don't.
But Marty's gone back in time. There's all sorts of things going on. So I don't think they ever would have become friends unless Doc knew they were supposed to be friends. And probably Marty told him, hey, this is how we met. Because I'm sure, like, you all of a sudden, like, this kid from the future comes back and says, oh, we're best friends. It's like, how are we best friends? Especially 30 years later. Wouldn't that be kind of creepy? It's like, no, this is how it happened. And they're like...
Well, I think that the old Doc from 1955 didn't want to know about the future. So Marty would not have been allowed to tell him. But you are right by saying that he knows that he needs to be friends, or that he will become friends with Marty. So if they ever cross paths, I'm sure that Doc found a way to speak to Marty somehow, or even he knew where the school was and stuff like that. So he would have he could have been maybe somebody that showed some sort of science thing at school. Who knows?
Well, we know he even interacted with his other self. Doc did. At that point, he was like, just a little science experiment,
It's the weather.
Exactly. John was mentioning the matching scenes between the various series, the sequels. And one of the other things that I did not know until I did some more research, knowing we were going to do this, was they actually matched a lot of scenes from classic Westerns as well.
They did.
Like shot for shot, color value, all of that. I was watching the DP talking about it.
And actually, even in the bar, the three people that are sitting,
they're classic.
They're classic actors from a lot of really known Westerns.
Huge. Yeah.
Well, the whole movie's kind of a satire of Westerns. Not a deconstruction, well, more of a deconstruction of like how people saw Westerns in the 50s, because Marty goes back in that ridiculous getup.
Yes.
It even has the
They have
nuclear
fun
symbols on there. It's just like, and it just shows how ridiculous it was to...
Well, it portrays how we used to do Westerns back in the 50s with these kind of clothes, because it had to be colorful. It was just different. Whereas nowadays, even in the 80s or even in the 70s, when they had the Clint Eastwood, it was more like how he's dressed later.
Yeah, because in the 50s, that was before spaghetti Westerns, when people finally, like, I don't know how realistic all the stuff is for the Western, but it was a little more gritty, a little more...
Arguably, half of them were before color, too.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. True.
So, they, of course, I had to pick the Clint Eastwood name to kind of like draw attention to how it was. Right. From the first time I saw this movie, I still really appreciated the Indian billboard joke.
I'm going to run into some Indians. You got to think fourth dimensionally.
And they're there.
The Indians are not going to be there.
Yeah, right.
Like the train track. That's right.
Yeah. And speaking of that, when was the first time you guys saw this movie? Do you remember?
Oh, I honest to God don't, because at that point I was so wrapped up in it, I became a big fan.
I remember very vividly, and I know I kind of mentioned it in one of the other podcasts, but I'll tell the whole story now since we're talking about part 3. But I was about maybe 9 years old when the movie was supposed to come out, because it came out in 1990, and they had this contest in a TV guide, the same kind of TV guide that they had in Europe, where they were giving out free tickets to the premiere in Belgium.
Oh,
so I just submitted. I said, hey, I want to be at the premiere of Belgium, and I actually won tickets. for the premiere, and it was really, really cool. I was so excited. I was like, oh my God, or maybe some of the actors going to be there. And of course,
anybody, or was it the audience premiere?
It was in Belgium at the time, even though nowadays, because we have a really, really strong cinema, love for cinema in Belgium.
Film festival,
they have quite
too.
a few, actually, Marvel films that premiere sometimes first in Belgium.
To see.
Yeah, before they premiere in America. So sometimes you have the Marvel releases maybe 2-3 weeks in advance. But during those days, all they did was they had a cool like presentation. Some sort of director from the movie theater said, "Hey, we're really happy that you're here, and we're going to present to you Back to the Future."
They just introduced
a month before it gets released in movie theaters.
Still fun. Great memory to have.
It was
amazing.
amazing. And I actually saw it a second time with either my mom or I know my mom or dad went to see it, and I was like, no, you got to see it too. So I managed to go see it a second time at a movie theater.
Like jealous, not jealous, but you know what I mean? Like I didn't get to see it on a big screen.
It was amazing.
I can't wait. I'm getting like a 150-inch screen at some point, I hope, which I'll revisit these movies again because I really want to see it on a big screen.
Are you going to do a projector? Or?
Yeah, I have I bought a huge expensive projector for something I thought we were going to use for one of our other antimatter things, which I don't know if we told you about. And
I don't think you told me. I don't even remember half of this.
Yeah, exactly. And so I can't wait to project it. It's like a really good projector, and I want to see it. Big screen's like being a kid again.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, 100%. So does anyone know why they chose a Western?
I do.
For the third movie?
For me, it just made sense that they had to go back exactly 100 years from 1985.
Evan?
I don't know.
Let's see what Evan has to say about it.
What I heard, there's actually a couple different reasons. Because it so closely mimicked the idea of doing everything from a period piece each time, that they wanted to follow the same template, so to speak.
Okay.
So that was one reason. Two, was very honorific. They all loved Westerns. It was a rumor was specifically that Michael J. Fox requested. They said, well, if you could do it any time, when would it be? He's like, I don't know. I've always wanted to do a horse. And they said, oh, okay, a Western. And the Bobs loved that. And then, as it so turns out, just because of the way the production schedule worked out, they were filming some of it in, mine need to tell you about this in a second, but some of it in one spot and finishing the other one back here.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
But yes, that is correct. From what I see on Wikipedia, because that's the most accurate source out there on the internet.
Which you wrote, right?
Yeah. Well, Evan goes back.
Evan wrote that.
I wonder where they came up with that.
Yes, but that's basically what happened, is that they asked Marty McFly, what's his name?
Michael J. Fox.
Yeah.
Almost synonymous, though.
Oh, exactly, right? What time period you wanted to do? And they said, Old West. I'm like, okay. And they just ended up deciding on part 3, which it does tie it up nicely, because they got to revisit when the clock tower was first.
Right, that's what I was going to bring up a little while ago.
So it does sort of do a full sort of circle thing around, which
and also I agree too that it's not too much in the past where maybe the McFlys wouldn't have even lived there.
Oh, that was the other thing too.
I think that's important.
They got to show Michael J. Fox's character, Marty, actually, aside from just playing the adult, like with Doc, gets to develop as an adult himself, because he's holding the baby, and he's, no spoiler alert here, he learns about his family.
I hope they've seen the movie.
Yeah, I hope they've seen it.
I'm like, come on, guys. Like, why are you watching?
And then they talk about the Browns, too, and I think they say
Von Browns,
the Von Browns, what was it, like 1912 or something like that?
They hadn't moved over there.
Yeah,
which arguably could make them German Jews.
Probably, yeah. So really fast before I forget, I remember specifically the first time the events leading up to the first time I saw this movie.
I wish I could remember.
Yeah, because I saw the first and the second before the third one came out, and I loved them. And the day, the Saturday after it came out, I begged my dad, and I had a tooth that was loose. I was too afraid of it getting yanked out, so my dad said, "If you let me yank your tooth out." Which was already coming out as a baby tooth. You know?
I get it, but still, that's an odd...
Yeah, so I will take you to see it. So it was very literally, took a pair of pliers, yanked it out, and I got to see Back to the Future Part 3.
I don't know whose father I'd rather have now. My father that was mad at me, I used needle nose pliers. I got sick of having braces on because the wires were big, and I pulled them off.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Crazy, right? But speaking of weird associations, so the first movie had some incest going on with Marty's mom trying to sleep with him. There's another hint of incest in this movie, by the way.
Well, because his ancestor is like with his mom.
Exactly. So it's just like, because she plays
she
great grandmother.
Yeah.
Oh, I never thought about that.
Yeah.
That
so
just
it's like,
as
so
a kid,
are you going to say that the McFlys have a type?
They were royalty. They were royalty.
So basically, what this movie is saying is that Marty McFly is dating his cousin, probably a couple generations removed. I mean, at that point, like third or fourth cousin, it's okay.
Yeah, I
It
mean,
is
there's
pretty
some
cool.
presidents that didn't like each other, whose families, are clearly related
Yeah.
many generations apart.
Speaking of presidents,
What'd you
guess
just
who they
get?
wanted to play the mayor of the town in the Wild West?
Oh God, let's see, who would be the
The
most
Willamette Valley mayor.
who would be the most ridiculous? Let's see, this was 90.
Was it a
1990.
political figure that was
Very famous political figure.
George Bush?
no?
Who would be ridiculous?
Like, was there be like Nixon or
No.
no?
No, it's got to be more modern.
Who used to
than
be
that.
an actor
Oh.
and stopped being president? Who they
Ronald
mentioned-
Reagan?
Ronald Reagan.
Ronald
Ronald Reagan.
That would have actually been cool.
That would have been
Yeah.
great
because
stunt
they
casting.
because in the first one they do say, well, who's going to be the president in the future? Ronald
Yeah.
Reagan?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they contacted
An
his
actor?
lawyer, not his lawyer, his agent, Lou Wasserman,
Or the-
and
Yeah.
Reagan declined, which would have been freaking hilarious to have Ronald Reagan in this
Yeah.
movie, but he didn't do it.
Yeah, too bad. How old was he at the time?
They
He
still-
just stopped being president. So Ronald
Oh,
Reagan
yeah.
would have been he's in
Didn't
70s.
they get him in there anyway with the floating screen? One time it has Michael on it, and another time doesn't it have Reagan on it in the
Yeah, it's a
background?
fake. I think it's a fake.
I know it's fake, but I'm
Yeah,
saying
yeah,
it's
they
like
have it
wet,
in there.
wet,
Yeah,
wet,
yeah.
well.
Yeah, that's a fake.
Yeah.
Oh, and there was an SNL skit when Reagan's son hosted SNL, and where Reagan's son's he went back in time and he had to get his parents together because like I think Reagan
Oh, that's
in it
funny.
like they had Reagan as a staunch Democrat and his who Nancy as a
Nancy.
staunch
That is
Republican
a stretch.
and they were able to convince one of them to become Republican in the past. And he goes
Oh,
back in time.
That's pretty interesting.
And finds out his dad's president now. Or goes back to the future and finds out his dad's president. So there's a lot of back and forth with Reagan and Back to the Future. I hope that made
think-
sense. I don't think it made sense to everyone.
It went in such a circle that I had to think as you
Yeah,
said it.
so-
But yeah, it
yeah,
made
now
sense.
that you mention it, it makes sense.
Yeah, so basically, Reagan's son, who hosted SNL, went back in time to a movie set where his parents met. And they weren't going to get together, and he had to
And he has
basically
to
get
get
them
'em
together.
together. So it's like the
he used
plot.
yeah, so it was basically an homage to Back to the Future. Which is
You
pretty
guys
funny,
actually just touched on something that made me think about that as a fan. I guess a good 4, BTTF 4 would be Doc and Marty's origin story. That could be fun.
That could be fun, yeah.
A little bit of overlap, so you get some of the old scenes.
Yeah.
But then, if you guys hear about it, Bob's,
Well, it's never going to happen because I don't know if we
they
mentioned.
said they never will, right?
Yeah, I don't know if we mentioned this in the previous episodes, but basically, the producers and the directors of Zemeckis,
It's
the
locked.
Bobs, that they had to have final approval over
Right.
everything.
Yeah.
Nobody can ever do
Although
it but them.
I'm sure that now with all this AI stuff and deep fake and all that, I think at some point in the not so distant future, somebody's going to want to do some fan made
They can
stuff
do
with
it
the
with
actual
Michael,
actors.
honestly.
Yeah, exactly. They're going to have
His limitations or concerns, whatever, whether it be perception or physical, literal limitations, or if he didn't want it to look a certain way or wanted it to look a certain way, it could all be done now. So
Yeah.
it could be a pretty easy production for them to do if they're doing a lot of replacement or augmenting.
I mean, they wouldn't even have to use him. They would just
No, he could literally be in a studio.
yeah, exactly. Maybe for approval,
But
just
they'll
to
never
have
do it.
No,
Although
they won't.
Tom
Maybe.
Holland claimed that someone asked him if he's interested in starring in like a follow-up to a Back to the Future movie as a Marty
Yeah.
McFly type character, which
Well,
it's not going to happen. I mean, I don't think until the Bobs die, Bob Zemeckis and
They
Bob
won't do
Gale.
it. It would
Yeah.
only
they'll never
be
do it, yeah.
the only 4 that I could see would be obviously Marty and she have a baby because we've already alluded to it's your kids. It's got to be something where you just follow that route, or like I said, their origin story could be fun.
I don't think it should be a 4. If they ever do something that has to do with time travel, it could just be
A new tangential,
like a Back to the Future story or something
right?
like that.
Like a
With
Star Wars story is
something like that, where it's about time travel, something similar but not.
We don't talk about Disney Star Wars on this podcast.
But there's that doesn't
Ever
exist.
since it's
I'm
been
sorry.
sold,
Yeah.
It doesn't.
talking about.
It doesn't. So here's a bit of a brain twister. All right, so Clara, played by Mary Steenburgen, and also, by the way, she played the romantic lead in, was it Time Enough for Love or whatever? With
and Ted Danson's Life.
that's true too.
Yeah.
But what was the movie where it was Jack Ripper goes into the future? Oh, he steals H.G. Wells' time machine and back and
this
stuff
sounds
like that.
interesting.
And so basically, H.G. Wells falls in love with Mary Steenburgen's character in the present and has to tell her, hey, I'm a time traveler, and she says, no, you're not, and thinks he's lying to
wow.
her. And she's joked about how she's like, it's the same scene, but 2 different movies and years apart. I did it. So
Oh, that's interesting.
Isn't that funny?
I think I remember seeing some sort of
I
interview where she
didn't. I
talks
was
about
not
that.
aware of that one.
yeah, so it's kind of hilarious how that goes down. But so her character dies in the original timeline, right? Because the ravine is named after her or something
Yeah,
like that, right?
Clayton Ravine.
Claire,
But-
was it Clara?
Clara Clayton.
Yeah.
And then afterwards
Clayton's
it becomes
Ravine.
Eastwood Ravine.
Right.
Yeah. So, that's right. That's
When
right.
everything gets fixed again.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Clara dies, but then when when they find Doc's gravestone, it says his beloved Clara and stuff like that. But didn't she die? Like, how did they meet?
Oh, I think there's a lot of things that slip through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, actually, I just thought about this because you know how they changed Marty McFly's girlfriend between part 1 and part 2?
Yes.
Different
But
actors.
what if
Elizabeth Shue
if we
from
can actually like
Claudia Wells.
ration it because they go through parallel universes? So basically, when he changed the future of his parents, he changed the girlfriend.
That'd be
in
funny
the-
if he
in
came
the
back.
present?
It was a different. It was the other
Because
girlfriend.
maybe the
Yeah.
parents had met at a slightly delayed
Yeah.
moment, and it was a different.
That'd be fun to do. I wish we could do.
It's pretty
sketches.
funny.
Oh, that's an interesting idea.
Isn't that kind of
Yeah.
cool?
Yeah.
So now it makes total sense.
Yeah.
Different timeline.
Although I don't
That
think
was
I
created.
don't
Parallel
think a
universe.
paradox was created with Clara because remember, so they tell. I thought you guys would catch this. I guess you're not as big a fan as I am.
I don't think it is.
Was it someone? Is it the mayor or someone in town goes to tell Doc Brown you agreed to meet the new teacher when she came into town, but he doesn't go. Wait, now I'm gonna. He doesn't go to meet
went?
her because he knows that Clara, his beloved Clara, so
Yeah.
he's afraid of that. But then if you went to go meet her at the train station, then she wouldn't have fallen in the ravine. But then, yeah, well.
I don't know.
Oh, because
where
if Doc
the stop is in relation.
If Doc
to the
Brown
ravine.
wasn't there, I guess she would have fallen off the ravine. But because he was there, he was supposed to go meet her and save her. So I think it does communicate to him because he thought he could stay in the past and not affect the timeline. But I think when he realizes that he's going to meet her no matter what when he's in the past, like he can't just his very presence there changes the timeline. But then it also goes into like the previous movies kind of touch upon very subconscious like destiny and fate, like
Yeah,
right? They do
serendipity.
say that.
yeah. And I do think when I watched it the other night, I do feel like this sort of inspired Quantum Leap because Quantum Leap came out after I think
Did it really?
Did it?
after Back to the Future did, and it almost feels like they were meant to go back and fix this stuff. So like, I think Quantum Leap, I bet, was partially inspired. Actually, I should look it up
Yeah,
right now.
but maybe even I feel there's a lot of similarities between Sliders in some way too.
Yeah.
And
At
when
least the
was
first
the
seasons.
really old school series with Michael Landon, where he's an angel that's here fixing things or something? I wonder if that's in the same time period too.
Gosh, I don't remember.
Oh,
the
though,
series.
actually, okay, there was a 1960s movie called The Time Tunnel, which did that too.
The
They
Time
go back in time and
Tunnel?
fix stuff. I remember seeing that a long time
Yeah.
ago at Nick at Night. I
But
never
Quantum
really-
Leap was genius, to be honest. I mean, I know they have a new show now, which I haven't
Yeah, I
watched
haven't
yet.
seen.
But for me, I still associate it to the original.
Yeah. Quantum Leap ran from 1989 to 1993. So,
Yeah.
So 3 years passed.
yeah. So it wouldn't surprise me.
Not
I think,
bad.
didn't the new one get canceled already?
Did it?
Let me see. Here's
They should
Quantum
have
Leap. Oh, no, it's
hired,
still going on. It's still.
It's
They should
pretty
have
new. I
hired,
was gonna say.
at least I know that the guy that's always with him has passed away, but the main guy's still alive, and it would have been kind of interesting to have him in some form in the show. Mm-hmm. Maybe
Well, I think
even
he's
have a
supposed to
cross.
be in it because he's not the new actor in Quantum Leap isn't playing Sam Beckett. He's playing like it's a sequel series to the original. So, is he in here?
But it would be kind of fun if at some point they met,
Right. In a.
because maybe he's still going through different.
I'm sure they'll do it, and they're going to keep it a secret until it actually airs.
Oh.
Do you
That's what I would do.
either of you have a specific reason that you think of that you have more of, or any inclination towards more nostalgia or love for 3 versus the other 2? Just curious. I know this isn't a question
Yeah.
we talked about, but I.
Well, when the first one came out, I saw it on TV first, and I don't think they were talking really about having sequels. At least it wasn't public.
Right.
So a lot of the time they were hinting, I remember in magazines, and just saying that it was just supposed to be a joke, that there's not going to be a sequel.
Because the 2 in the theater, apparently
Yeah.
the trailer, and I didn't really remember this, but the trailer for 3 was on the
Yes.
end of 2.
Yeah.
And I did not remember that until I was going back through this. And
Yeah.
I was like, oh, wow, that's right.
Yeah, and I
Just
remember.
like in The Matrix 2, they had the trailer for part 3.
Oh,
yeah.
I will say this, though, mini comparative ping on our conversation here is I look at the Matrix trilogy way different than Back to the Future. Back to the Future, I love all 3 movies. I love them as a whole thing, and they can exist alone as well. The Matrix, I only love the Matrix. I don't even look at it like a trilogy.
Yeah. Well, some films don't really need sequels, and in some way, honestly, the first Matrix was so perfect
So
that it
good.
didn't.
Yeah.
It was finished. The story
But
was finished.
The back to the BTTF world is so thoroughly
Yeah.
engaging no matter which one it is.
But you take a lot of those romantic comedies, for example, and they have a perfect ending because the couple gets together. Well, you know what happens to real couples in life. Usually they often have divorces and quarrels. So now it would be kind of sad to make a sequel on one of those like perfect romantic comedies because you would see the tragedy. So the second one would be a tragedy.
That was the concept behind the one that Vince Vaughn produced, the breakup. The whole concept pitch was, let's watch a relationship in reverse, watch it devolve.
Speaking of that, I mean, there's a trilogy that actually does that really well. It's the Before trilogy.
Before Sunrise.
Before Sunrise.
Oh, I
Before
forgot
Midnight,
about
Before Midnight.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the first
'Cause
two are
it's
very
so many.
Yeah. They're
Yeah.
very helpful, very romantic, and the third one, it's kind of depressing because it's how a relationship goes
Yeah.
down.
It's so
You know, fights.
realistic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now I've lost my train of thought because there's just so
Well,
much to talk
we
about
were
in this
jumping-
movie.
I know.
Oh, I would say, speaking of trilogies, I think Back to the Future as a whole, when you look at all 3 movies,
It's near
it's the most
perfect.
it's the most satisfying because the
For
ending
sure.
is great. Yeah.
I will watch it from any point in the movie that I catch it
No.
if I'm not doing anything.
Yeah.
And I'll watch any one of the movies.
Yeah, I would say that Back to the Future trilogy has the second most satisfying ending of any like piece of media out there.
That's actually what prompted me to make sure that I went back and looked at it again because I was like, okay, I remember the beginning. I think I remember most of everything. I was like, okay, they leave. And, I won't go into too much detail in case by chance somebody hasn't seen it. But I was like, oh, yeah, that's right. But I had to skim for a second.
And the 1985 section is actually pretty satisfying because they do spend when he goes back to the present time in the movie, they do spend a good 10, 15 minutes in 1985 going to the girlfriend, going back to his house so he at least sees his parents. And we do see his siblings too. Because remember, I thought that the sister had died because she wasn't in the other ones, but she's actually a really brief moment. You see her quarreling with her brother.
Is it really Wendy Jo Sperber?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
actually them.
I paid a lot of attention to George McFly.
Yes, and now you can tell
It's
that
so bad.
Yeah, so
kept
bad
his
with the makeup.
sunglasses.
You can see, well, his face is so pale, and you see his neck is like
Oh, my God. That was
just,
the
like,
upside
tan.
down thing.
Yeah,
too.
and I'm just like I'm looking at that. I'm just like it's so obvious. I mean, you have to really look at it and know what happened because he got fired
Well,
from the second.
I was going to
and third
say,
one.
somebody should explain for those
Well, it wasn't
people.
the second one. Hopefully, people have seen that episode. But yeah, because it was not the same actor, so they tried to hide it because
They had a contract dispute, apparently.
Yeah.
And then because this is before the days of your image being as much of a thing, he had to sue them
Yeah.
for using what they said was his image. And they did find in his favor,
Yeah.
as far
And
as I remember.
I do think it's honestly probably the biggest mistake he's ever done in his career because this franchise, he could have been.
Oh,
going to-
you mean not doing it?
not doing it because he could have
Yeah.
been at conventions with them. He probably would have been in other films by
It's a
Zemeckis and
career.
other things
Yep.
because he's a great actor. He still had an amazing
God,
career.
River's Edge
But-
and a bunch
yeah.
of...
has.
He has,
He still has
has.
a great career. Yeah,
He does, but
it was disappointing. It's probably the biggest flaw in the trilogy and the biggest disappointment.
I
Yeah.
love him so much in the movies.
yeah, and also
Yeah.
because I think it is going to be his most beloved role
Absolutely. I was
of
thinking,
whatever
yeah.
he's done. So even though, he might not have done as much as Michael J. Fox or whatever, it just would have been nice to have been part of all these conventions and all these things. And he might be stubborn about it, but I'm sure that there's some ounce of regret. in
I
him
think
too.
too, like to that end, like Michael J. Fox to have like such iconic, you would never think that he would have something beyond Family Ties and Alex P. Keaton that would be, because it's so iconic, and then to be somebody else that's kind of diametrically opposed. He's hopeful. He's probably liberal. We don't know, but the character, it's like, what an amazing character.
Yeah, but Michael J. Fox had everything lined up in his life at the perfect time because he had that very boyish look. But luckily, he started his career young enough where he he could play a kid.
Yeah.
And then when he became an adult, if he had maybe started a little bit later, they might have been like,
Yeah.
you look too young for the
And it was the era
You know.
where they were having 30-year-olds play
Exactly.
18-year-olds, and he was only like 20.
Yeah, so everything kind of really lined up at the right time, the right place, the right
Perfect everything.
kind of acting. If you guys ever had a chance to watch his Apple TV documentary,
I think we
it's
talked about that
really
on the
good.
other one.
Yeah.
I have not seen it yet. I want to sit through it. I find that I'm much more picky nowadays, which is why when I
No,
was
but
going
they
back
did a
to
great
this,
job. It looks like a movie. They call it a movie too. It's not really a documentary.
It basically is. It's like a semi-fictionalized version of the truth,
Yeah.
right?
Movie or
Yeah.
film?
You know, if we're gonna like a mini off the beaten path for a second, but relative, I think and I know this is about the influence that movies have on us and films have on us. I think if something could be a popcorn movie and also be a film, but more likely than not, not all films are movies. I think movie to me implies that it's fun. Like you're going to the movies on the weekend with your friends or your family.
Yeah.
You don't go see a film. Also, when you're more of an adult and you're studying it, I think then you're looking at it as a film.
But I think back in the day,
But I'm just going off the top of my head. I'm not.
So you're saying Lars von Trier doesn't make movies; he makes.
I'm saying 90% of the people watching this are going, "What the guy from Metallica did something."
No, Lars von Trier, the Danish filmmaker. I
Yeah.
mean, his movies are hard to watch.
yeah,
I can't speak to that.
Don't ever start, because we can't even talk about his movies without like YouTube flagging us for taking it down. I think.
Well, and if you believe that person that we were doing those music videos for, like you can't smoke in that or YouTube won't air it. You can't show a knife. Somebody's eating fish.
Yeah. So David, if the YouTube version of this gets flagged, no, it's probably me just mentioning Lars von Trier, so we'll have to bleep it out.
okay.
He's that bad.
Or we could spell it differently and pretend you were talking about something else.
Sure, why not?
I'm sure they're not gonna.
I'm kidding. I'm
not just
kidding. I'm
on
kidding.
that.
In fact, cut this whole segment right now. Let's move on to the next part.
It's about a baker who makes Danish.
Yeah. Yes. Which actor you think had the most fun making this movie?
Oh God, that's everybody did as far as I know.
I think two in specifically had the most fun. I feel.
I'm gonna go back to my first thing because I know that little blurb that I saw. He was excited to ride a horse and be in the Western. So I'm gonna say I'll guess Michael, but I bet you, having been Canada, but he was from the city. I'm gonna guess Michael.
I would say Christopher Lloyd. Again, no.
I think it was Thomas Wilson.
Thomas
Biff
Wilson.
playing his
Okay.
Lieutenant.
Getting to
You could
play
tell.
Mad
He
Dog.
played
So much fun.
he had
you
a
could tell he had
He
so
got to
much
be
fun.
really big.
amazing
in it.
character.
Yeah, and I was
Yeah.
watching him.
movie.
I bet he learned to ride horses just for this. And it looks like he did.
Oh yeah.
Well, I think I know Michael did actually ride, and
Yeah.
so
And
I'm
he's
sure.
unrecognizable in the whole.
Yeah,
thing.
I didn't realize it when I first saw it as a kid. Looking
didn't?
back, I didn't realize. It
Oh,
was the
I
same
did
actor.
immediately.
Really?
I
No,
loved him.
I knew it was him, but he
Bear in
does.
mind,
He looks amazing, and when you see him in real life without all the makeup and stuff, you wouldn't think of casting him as a cowboy.
They
Bear in
aged him a
mind,
little, too.
I didn't know Marty. It was the same. I didn't know it was the same actor, Michael J. Fox, playing his ancestor. I was 7 when I first saw this
wow.
movie. No,
Oh, so you didn't really
I knew that
realize
because
That's
I had
seven.
I
friends
realized all that
talking
stuff.
about him playing his daughter, and who else did we discuss him too?
and his
you guys
son.
revealed that to me last.
And they
last
made
episode,
it really obvious that it was him.
Oh, yeah.
Like even the zoom, if I remember correctly, we come up to the banister,
Yeah.
he flips his hair and turns right
Yeah.
into camera.
It's great character work, and then also I thought it was fun that he had that for his ancestor in the 3. He had that Irish accent
with the
And I
mustache,
thought-
the broom handle mustache.
Yeah, because
and
how many
push broom mustache.
times in your career can you use like a
Yeah,
Irish
right?
accent? And he got to do it.
Well,
It's kinda cool.
also
Ah, for Pete's
the
sake.
other actor who had a lot of fun, who he only had one scene in the movie, but 2 scenes. technically.
Strickland.
Very good. Yeah,
Oh,
James Tolkien. Yeah,
he loved
Yeah.
that one
movies.
scene he has with Biff. Well, the 2 scenes
Yeah.
were like kind of like that
With the
looks like-
guns?
with the guns.
That's probably a career maker for him, even being such a great character actor.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's his most recognizable role.
Yeah, but
Well,
he's
that-
in so many 80s films.
Yeah,
He's
that
in so
and
many movies.
Masters of the Universe, which we have to actually do. Masters of the Universe at one point.
I actually saw that. That was the first movie I saw at the movie theater.
Masters of the Universe? I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I liked it when it came out. I was so young.
The first movie I saw in theaters was the Big Bird movie, the Sesame Street thing.
Oh,
You mean
that's
the Big
funny.
Bird film?
Yes. Film. Sorry.
Film.
Oh my gosh.
What are you doing on this weekend? Going to see the
Yeah.
Big Bird film.
Well, speaking of Biff, I remember watching it and feeling slightly disappointed how, like, after he's done, he's done. I'm like, that's it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it felt a little more satisfying in like the last two movies when his character gets his comeuppance. So it wasn't as, and this character truly, like, modern Biff, you can kind of sympathize with him a little bit with everything going on, but like this Biff, Mad Dog, like, absolutely garbage, like human being. Absolutely terrible.
But he's very similar to Biff in the 50s.
But there's something
He's just
redeemable
a worse,
because
bigger.
Biff never. Well, he did kill. Once he became corrupted by power, he killed people.
Yeah, but he
this
wanted
guy
to
just
take
kills
advantage
people.
of
And this guy, well, they called him
Marty's
Mad
mom.
Dog. Well, you don't call him
Lorraine.
Yeah.
to his name,
So,
but Mad Dog shoots people. I guess they were like, that's fine. His name isn't Biff.
No.
You know.
Yeah. So he's pretty much the most horrible person there is. But again, he got manure.
Even in this one
as well. Yeah, this
when
one, yeah.
was this?
At the end.
yeah, at the end he
Stagecoach?
falls into
What-
the manure
Yeah.
when Marty punches him, and then he even gets up and he's like, "I hate manure," and then he spits out.
Okay, I didn't remember because it
And
wasn't.
back then. There's no showers there, so you're
Nope.
It
smelling like that
wasn't a
for a
vehicle.
while.
Oh, I remember.
I mean, except if there's a river or something like that.
That's true.
yeah.
Oh no! When Marty first goes into town, they have a bathhouse there. That's one of the first things he sees when he comes into town. It's just like, what? That guy's bathing.
Right, and then they established the water thing because he, we see the big contraption that Doc's doing, complex experiment
For
ice
ice.
cube.
I think
Literal
my dog would have been
ice.
his Biff's grandfather or great grandfather.
Great-grandfather.
And
Yeah.
I assume the reason why Biff has such a terrible life is because, I mean, you
He
basically I
must have
think
been
Biff probably
a jerk in a past
Oh, yeah.
life.
I mean, probably his ancestor was a prostitute. Like, when you think about it, because Mad Dog Tanny probably was
probably, yeah.
frequenting whorehouses, which they had in they imply their prostitutes.
He
in
probably
the
impregnated her, and she never had.
Wow, that's a lot
Like
of dark
whoever she had as a
backstory.
kid never
Well, yeah,
had
of
a
course, yeah.
father figure.
generational trauma.
Generational trauma.
Usually, people always like, oh, my parents screwed me up. Well, their parents screwed them up, and vice versa. And we're going back all the way 20, 30,000 years in the past. So
That's Thomas F. Wilson's punk rock band name.
generational trauma.
Yes.
Really?
That sounds about right.
That would be funny.
Also, really, it's like you got like one or two scenes for Leigh Thompson, and that's basically it. She just sort of
Yeah.
vanishes. But it's just the way it is.
I wonder if
so.
she was working on something else or if it was just served the
Maybe.
story.
Yeah. No, it's just a story. That was what it
Also,
was.
speaking about
It's kind of a
like
boys'
circles of actors, I know that Eric Stoltz made a movie with Leah Thompson like around the same time
Did
as
Some Kind of Wonderful.
Some Kind of Wonderful.
Oh,
And then they were.
I wonder
in
if
love.
that was. Oh, but that's what a
Weird.
small world
I-
of all of them.
I like finding out these little tidbits. Like, for example, we're getting off the beaten path for a second, so everyone bear with me.
Beat away.
So the original X-Men movie, Hugh Jackman played Wolverine, of course.
Yes.
That wasn't supposed to happen. It was supposed to be Drew Gray Scott.
Oh,
But he turned it down because the filming for Mission Impossible 2 went over, so he turned it down and Hugh Jackman got cast. So now in X-Men, Wolverine's romantic interest is Famke Johnson, who plays Jean Grey or Phoenix.
Okay.
So then there was that weird show on Netflix, like the second show that Netflix did original, it was Hemlock Grove. And you have Drew Gray Scott playing the romantic partner for Famke Janssen's character, and she rips his heart out at the end of it. Spoiler alert for end of season 2.
Is that
But, like,
his-
seeing that stuff? Again, I probably just talked in circles. Everyone's like, "What is Jonathan talking about?"
Well,
Like,
we'll start with is that his name pronunciation, like the way Rafe is?
Drew Gray Scott, yeah,
Okay.
right.
That way,
am crazy?
I
Am
just
I
want to
crazy?
know. I like when I hear something and I don't know it. I want to know it so that
Yeah.
for future reference, I can then lord that over
but
somebody
could it
else
also
at a
be
cocktail
that?
party.
Could it also be that there's not enough working actors that actually book a lot of roles, so they always take from the same pool of actors?
Or could it be Doug? I don't know. I assume it was
Yeah,
Drew Gray
or
Scott,
like
but-
people that make their name really original, you know, their stage names, so that you like Whoopi Goldberg or what's the woman that we were talking about not too long ago with she's Asian with a hip hop name and now became an actor. Or always,
Aquafina.
Thank you. Yes, and
She's-
with the
she's
spelling
excellent.
as well as the name, so
Yeah.
it could be. I could totally see that. Like, look, what Juicy Smollett. That's not his. That's his stage name.
What, you
Yeah.
mean Juicy isn't a given name for anyone?
Well, I didn't even know it was pronounced that
Well,
way till a
can-
comedian started making fun of him. And
Can you legally call someone juicy?
You can
If you
call
change your
somebody
name?
whatever. Yeah, you
Really?
can change your name to. There are people. Well,
Yeah.
there's some ridiculous. If you go online, there's some legit
Yeah.
names that people chose that were only a couple have been refused
Yeah,
before.
in Europe, you're not allowed to. If it's something that's demeaning or an insult or
yeah,
something,
they
you
just
can't-
crack down on license plates.
yeah,
here.
you just can't
But here you can
because you
can
ruin
name
somebody's
yourself-
life.
Yeah,
Well-
your kids. You got to make sure your kids get a game. If I were to change my name to anything,
Oh,
it
no,
would be
he's thought
me,
about this.
M-E, and that's it. So when someone reads my screenplays, it says da 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 written by me.
Me. That's funny.
Okay, then it would be produced by Nunya.
None of your business.
Exactly. Well, if you want to use my
gosh.
last name.
How do you guys feel about the DeLorean getting destroyed at the end of this?
Bittersweet.
Yeah.
I
A little
mean,
bit, yeah, because Doc Brown wanted the DeLorean to be destroyed, and
For
when Marty
safety.
sees the DeLorean destroyed, he's like, "Oh, cool." But then he comes back 10 minutes later with
Yeah.
his other time machine that's
I
a
think
train.
they did it to play, but I think then
Yeah.
also it's like letting people know that this is the third. We're not intending
Yeah.
to, on a subtext
But
level.
in some way, they also kind of left it open because he does leave with that train, which led to the animated
and
series.
the train has the ability to travel.
Well,
so.
speaking of that, so this is the end of the film franchise, but there's one thing we haven't talked about yet in the Back to the Future franchise. I'm gonna look at David and see if he can
Two.
read my mind, and he knows what I'm talking about because I know he's.
I've got a
experienced this.
follow up then.
The video game?
Yes, very good. He got it. I've never played the video game.
Me either.
But I read that people behind the movie said that's as close as we're ever going to get to Back to the Future Part 4. So, David, how was the video game? Because it was Telltale Games, did like a 5.
We literally discussed this
Yeah.
off air before you came
Yeah,
in here.
well, there's actually different iterations of the video games. So, yeah, there's the video game that's done by Telltale Games. They released it in 5 episodes, and they had a voice actor that played the voice of Michael J. Fox.
Yeah,
he's
'cause Marty's
sick.
the character
But he
in it.
still came back as Michael J. Fox did do the voice in, I think, episode 4 for one of his ancestors.
Okay.
And they had Christopher Lloyd, and they had actually every single actor that Thomas F. Wilson, all these people like came back for the voices. And it is kind of like a sequel to Back to the Future 4, to Back to the Future 3. So it is an indirect sequel, and it is really fun because you get to see different eras and, like the prohibition of...
It's great for
yeah.
really big fans.
Yeah, it's the game is simple, but it is really fun to hear all their voices and stuff like that. But then they also did do a bunch of comic books by IDW,
Oh, this is
which
what
that's what I had talked to you about, where they show alternate universes, alternate stories. But then they also have different timelines where they maybe might focus on like the story of Biff, or they have stuff that happens after Back to the Future 4, which is sort of like a way to, and it's also is done by Bob Gale, like it's written by Bob Gale and some other
Right,
people. So it is official in its own
So
way.
that's why I got approved because
Yeah.
he oversaw
And then
it stuff
they
like that.
must embrace it because, as I was telling David, that I stumbled across a pseudo 4, which is a fan fiction, one that fans put together,
Yeah.
and it says specifically we lifted outtakes from this or unused stuff from this. We took from the video game and we did this, and then
Yeah,
they constructed a script and strung it together, which is very impressive because it's pre AI and pre all of the bells, whistles, and tricks we have now.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, correction. I just realized the movie that Mary Steenburgen was in, that was also the time travel, Time After Time.
Steam
Oh,
version.
I
time.
think I said Time Enough or something like that. So
Oh,
before anyone,
yeah.
like, if you already made the comment
probably,
correction. I know. Well, only so much information can fit in my brain at
Well,
any given
we're
time.
testing people. Like,
Better to
what else
follow
Yeah,
it,
you
yeah.
failed. I mean, passed or whatever.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is your guys' favorite part of this movie?
Oh God, favorite part? I guess there'd be a couple for me.
There'd be a couple, but
Scene
I
or part or just anything like
Whatever
moment.
you want to say. Yeah,
I do
However you
like
wanna
the-
define that.
I do like the moment when he plays the game at the dance for the clock tower
yeah.
when they're first of all like when they get the picture in front of the clock tower when it starts, but also when Marty
Oh, Marty and Doc. Yeah,
plays the game with the gun, which is basically the same game as
as the video game.
the video game, and then,
Yeah.
yeah, and then
I like that.
where did you learn how to shoot like that? And he says 7-Eleven, which
Yes.
is kind of cool.
That's fun.
And also the part where he sees Doc dancing for the first time,
That's
and he
sweet.
looks at him and says, "Doc can dance."
Yes.
Yeah, that's good.
That's
pretty well too.
Yeah, and also like when he does look at he's eating the pie, and he sees that the brand of the pie thing is called Frisbee, And then he goes,
Right.
Frisbee, 4 out. And then to his ancestors, and they're like, what is he talking about?
Speaking of him dancing, it made me remember something actually really
Wow.
fast. Remember, I think the first movie where Doc Brown's saying he's going to just not destroy the machine. He's always talking about destroying the machine. He's like, I'm going to spend my time focused on the universe's other great mystery, women.
Right.
And it's sort of like they kind of went back and like, okay, so he does get a bit of a character arc, which actually feels more natural than Marty's forced, like, oh, you yellow kind of thing and everything like that.
Oh, yeah. They were having fun with that. I mean, the Doc thing is truly a growth for him because we know in the other two, he's alluding to women like, get rid of her. It's your mom. Get rid of her. You know, like he wants nothing to do with women.
Great Scott, Marty. It's your mother.
And then, and then in the flip-flop thing, like we were talking about, Marty actually adopts and says "Great Scott" in the third one.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
He says it, and I was like, "Oh, I forgot." That
I
he
forgot
says
that.
it.
Yeah. Well, speaking, I think probably my favorite moment was when the train first appears at the end, and he's like, "We had to come back for Einstein." He didn't forget about his dog.
Right? They
Yeah,
put that in there.
but also, like, why was he in such a hurry to leave? Like, he has all the time in the world. He could,
yeah,
like,
they never
go
did
have some
explain
lunch
those
together
things.
with
Yeah.
Marty.
I
He
like-
just came back. Like, are you okay? Like,
Yeah, it's like this guy. He's always coming and going. He's
are you going
like,
to the future? No, we've already been there.
Dude's
How
never
far back are you
satisfied.
going to go? Because at one point, people are going to be like, what's up with that thing?
And also, this maybe you guys don't know, but when he introduces Jules and Vern, that's a really fun moment. So it's funny when I look at it, but there's so the Vern, the younger kid, so he wasn't allowed to talk during the scene.
Because he's an
but-
extra, or
No, well, he was an actor, but there was a sign for him to go to the toilet, and if you actually watch it, he's like touching his thing, and it's like kind of, and I guess it's the sign for him that he needs to go to the toilet. And fans like
what?
made cuts on
he
YouTube
had a
where,
hand signal
where they
for going to the
focus on
bathroom.
that part, and
Wait, why wasn't he allowed
It's
to talk?
terrible.
well, because they were
It would've-
shooting the scene, so in between the scene, they can't just like say cut. I need to go to the toilet, but he was gesturing like I need.
But
to
he knew how to talk.
No, he knew how to
Yeah,
talk.
so
he
they
was
were
just,
just-
he was
They're
just
like,
gesturing
"No."
to whoever, maybe his parent or whoever was there with him, like, I need to go to the restroom.
Sorry,
and it's
kid.
clearly in the cut, but you need to know. It's still brief.
They wouldn't let him talk.
Yeah.
It wasn't in the budget, apparently.
Yeah. I think that's kind of funny.
Sorry, Mini Ping. I liked the Eastwood shot, the iron.
Yeah.
Yes,
That's
yeah,
one of my
that's one of my.
favorite.
Yeah, I think I think
It's
Eastwood
silly.
literally did it in one of his movies.
He did.
Well, no,
believe.
because they
did.
show it in part 2 when it's
on the
this
TV.
cannon
I
is in the
forgot about that.
jacuzzi.
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
watching
yeah,
that
yeah,
scene.
yeah.
and
So
he-
pulls
look
back
at
the
that. Look
thing.
at
So that's
that
how he got the idea.
foreshadowing. Look at that. How clever.
It's almost like they meant to do it.
Yeah.
where it's
'cause
like they wrote the scripts
For
back to back.
Back.
This is a perfect segue because now we're going to talk about. In the first movie, it was hell on earth for Michael J. Fox to do it because he was doing two
Right.
projects at once.
Double duty.
This time, it was hell on earth for Robert Zemeckis because while they were filming part 3, he was editing part 2.
Back here in L.A.
Yes.
Yeah. So he would basically, they were saying, Zemeckis was shooting most of the train sequences. They were up a little further north, up in California.
And in Monument Valley, Utah, believe it or not.
Oh, really?
That's what I was that's where I broke my arm. That's why it's John and I know about this.
Let's finish this thing real fast, and we'll talk about our adventures in Utah for a second. But yeah, Zemeckis would write photography. He'd board a plane to Burbank. They'd meet with them, do the dubbing, do everything like that. They'd eat dinner while they were doing it. They'd oversee the reels doing that day. Then he would go sleep at a hotel.
Yeah.
The next day he'd just fly back.
Fly
He'd just
back.
go back and forth, back and
Yeah.
forth, back and forth, and
so
pretty rough.
his hour commute would be
Yeah.
on an
One
airplane.
thing
That
I've
sucks.
always wondered about Bob Zemeckis and Bob Gale is the fact that Bob Gale kind of vanished after Back to the Future. He hasn't really done things together.
he
and
might have
before-
vanished like a gale.
Yeah, right.
Of wind.
But
Oh.
I think that is kind of interesting because they were making movies together all the time, and then all of a sudden,
I feel like I read something about this.
like even let's say they had a dispute.
Gale.
Let's say they
they
had
didn't, but
but let's say that they did. Like, let's say they said, okay, we don't want to make movies as two directors
as a team or
as
whatever.
a team. Why didn't Bob Gale go and do his own stuff? He always comes back to do more
I mean,
Back to the
you're
Future
tempting
stuff.
me to go what happened to Bob
Yeah.
Gale after Back to the Future.
Yeah,
But
I mean, you see him doing co-written stuff on Back to the Future, the video game, and other stuff.
yeah, he definitely
but-
stays involved in the
But
universe.
he doesn't seem to direct. So who was the genius behind all the stuff? prior to that.
Oh, they wrote it very much together.
Nothing against Bob Gale, but I just think it's kind of interesting.
Maybe he just didn't have a burning passion to direct. I mean, some people don't.
And also something that is interesting is a lot of times, for example, if you see films by Steven Spielberg and again Bob Zemeckis and all that.
I'm sorry, Steven who?
They always cast the same actors, and if you watch Bob Zemeckis films, he had cast, for example, Christopher Lloyd and Who Framed Roger Rabbit. And
a lot of the same people.
A lot of stuff, but then after Back to the Future, he never cast Christopher Lloyd again in any of his other films. And I think that's kind of interesting.
I think, I feel bad kind of, and I mean, it's a blessing and it's bad for Chris Lloyd because his character is, once again, just like Michael J. Fox, so iconic.
Yeah.
You think of any character he's played, or the couple major ones that I'm sure you're thinking of right now, and just so, I mean, he's, what's his face from Taxi, Jim,
then Uncle
Ignatowski and Fester, and then Doc. I mean,
let's not forget he killed Captain Kirk's son in Star Trek 3: The Search for Spock.
Oh, that's
He's
true.
a Klingon. Yeah.
And I think
I see you, Mr. Lloyd.
And I think he just recently had a small role in the new Star Trek too.
He did something new. I know he resurfaced.
Star Wars. He was in Star Wars.
Was it Star Wars?
Yeah, in The Mandalorian.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah, he shows up. It's like, because it's a mystery kind of thing. Like, that's the bad guy, Christopher Lloyd.
Oh,
and then the last time I saw him before that was when was it on Jimmy Kimmel or Fallon or one of those where they came on with one of the cars and the two of them dressed in their period costumes again. Except he didn't really have any clear face makeup on with prosthetics. Before they had to give him some prosthetics to age him a little because he was still young and handsome, handsome.
Did you guys see Sin City 2, A Dame to Kill For? Because he shows up in that briefly. He's like, there's Christopher. I always get excited when I see Christopher Lloyd in anything because
everybody loves him. It's Christopher Lloyd. You love him in anything you see him in.
Yeah, he's amazing. And for a while, it's true that people were kind of had forgotten about him in some way, and he wasn't.
I'm amazed how many big, really talented actors, like the industry, just no disrespect, but like, come on, industry. Like,
I think it's after a certain age, maybe they just don't know what to do with them.
Just like they do that to women, been doing it to women forever.
Yeah,
like you're 35, we don't know what to do with you now.
Of course, if you look at his IMDb, you're going to see never stopped working. He was in a bunch of
people are giving
series,
especially right now. Actually, he's been in a lot of shows.
I'm sure. Even as stunt casting, I'm sure he could live just on stunt casting.
Yeah, and I remember also in the mid-90s, he was in a video game where he enters the Toon world. I forgot the name.
Like one of the Tomb Raider series?
No, it was Toonstruck. It was called Toonstruck, and it was a point-and-click video game. And it was a whole movie. They had filmed all these sections, of course.
Like Dragon's Lair, like where you click and then it goes, you can...
No, that's completely different.
Wait, I didn't know. So there was a Michael J. Fox show? Where he played him basically someone with Parkinson's, and Christopher Lloyd shows up on this.
Yeah, he shows up in one episode. And they also do the whole like clock thing and all that.
It wasn't even a full season, was it? How many episodes?
You know what?
He came out in one episode, I think.
I just realized. I think the ultimate podcast would be the two of them, not talking about Back to the Future, but them just hanging out talking about anything really. I'd listen to that.
Well, let's pitch them.
That'd be amazing.
I'm sure
you guys, and I know you guys are listening to this right now because
let's request it.
I know both of you spend all your time scouring the internet for more Back to the Future stuff. So, like the two of you need to do a podcast yesterday.
Yeah, and one thing I do appreciate about Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd, and actually most of the actors, is that they keep on showing up at all the conventions.
They
nowadays.
do. They do. Claudia Wells. I mean, I don't know if Elizabeth does. Elizabeth Shue.
No,
I know Claudia does.
I don't think she does, but Michael does.
I think Elizabeth's been working solidly too.
One of the reasons he says he does so many conventions is because of the Parkinson's, in order to raise awareness.
So he's raised more money and raised more awareness, arguably, than anybody else.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean,
even people that had it, and what was it, Hepburn? Katharine Hepburn had it too.
Oh, I know that.
I mean, honestly, I don't know too much about Parkinson's. I mean, I know more than I should just because of Michael J. Fox.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that even the way he is now and how good he's doing is because of all the advances that he's made with the Parkinson's disease. And even if he doesn't cure it for himself, I'm sure that he'll probably like save a lot of lives.
He's contributed already. Because
I think with Parkinson's, honestly, it's better to, if you're able to stop it in its tracks when you see the first signs of it, so that you don't have the degeneration in the brain of all that stuff.
Yeah, there's all kinds of
because
things.
it's much easier to stop it than to recover what you've lost.
Yeah.
So I'm sure he knows that.
He's raised more money, I know,
Yeah.
and they've made some breakthroughs. They're closer than they've ever been.
Oh yeah,
I know, which is
and
like,
I'm pretty sure at some point too now with all those neural implants and all that stuff, at some point
and
they're gonna be able to implant something that kind of gives that deficit of the movement and like compensates for whatever is missing in the brain.
I'm sure.
Well, I hope it happens in his lifetime. It would be amazing if
it would be amazing.
if,
I know he's not holding his breath for it, but
no.
I know it's.
But
it's
we're close. It's
so
less than
close.
50 years for sure.
We're so close to everything, except for like the big one. Like they're not going to solve that one, but all the other ones, though, I think we got. Look, it exists here on the planet, so there's a solution for it.
Well, there's another really famous actor who is suffering from like Lewy body dementia, which is sort of like an all-encompassing thing. It encompasses both Parkinson's
Robin
and
Williams.
Robin Williams, and actually one of the
right.
one of the side effects of the medication taking for it was suicidal
Depression,
tendencies.
Right.
So
I remember hearing this vaguely, and they didn't.
yeah.
But
It
it's
would have
often misdiagnosed too.
It's a lot of things.
Well, I think when Robin Williams died, that's when they started in culture. Instead of saying someone commits suicide, they died. They died by suicide, or
because it is an affliction.
Yeah, because sometimes you just don't have control over it.
But with Robin Williams, it's also different. He did suffer from depression his whole life. He was an alcoholic for many years.
It's usually not out of nowhere. People don't realize that.
I've always found that the best comics are usually the most depressed people.
They best writers.
That's why I'm so funny.
Actually, that being said, we should be responsible and say, the thing that everybody says, but we really mean it because we've all, as writers and artists, struggled with moments and times in our lives where we're severely depressed or at least shut down and don't want to talk to anybody. So if you are having issues, at least reach out to a friend and tell somebody because it gets it out of your head. It makes it a lot.
Yeah, and there's a high probability if anyone listening to this is probably a fan of film and maybe wants to get into filmmaking too. Like every creative person deals with.
Yeah.
We're all crazy in some capacity, or what
100%.
they mainstream call crazy.
Some more than others.
If they're good, if somebody's good, if you like somebody, you love somebody, they probably have some of what we're talking about.
And sometimes the happiest people on the outside are the saddest ones when they
absolutely
they're by themselves.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Anyway, that's as we're wrapping up this trilogy. It's maybe a little more positive here.
Upbeat.
Yes, upbeat. I mean, I think again, like I mentioned earlier, of all the film trilogies out here, I think this is the most complete, the most whole.
Except for Lord of the Rings.
I still put this over Lord of the Rings.
No, I would put this over Lord of the Rings.
No, I agree. I was just joking.
Lord of the Rings, Lord of the Rings are films. These are movies.
Okay. That Lord of the Rings is a film, and they are film and movie.
Yeah. It just, I feel like this is a lighter watch. It's easier to get into it. I mean, Lord of the Rings, especially if you're a big Lord of the Rings fan, you're not going to watch the theatrical releases. You're going to watch the extended 4-hour versions and stuff.
For me, it's popcorn meter. You know what I mean?
I think probably the whole Back to the Future trilogy is almost equal to one Lord of the Rings.
Oh God!
In length, it would be about 6 hours, so maybe like
and a half,
two.
Yeah, I've exaggerated a little bit.
Two
I think each movie is only an hour 58 minutes per movie. To be honest,
the Lord of the Rings.
No, Back to the Future.
And they move so fast.
But each
that's one thing that's
each
great.
Lord of the Ring cut versions, the cinematical ones, are maybe 2.5. Or something like that, but I think the uncut versions of Lord of the Rings are 3.5, 4 hours, or something like that,
3.5
per movie.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
You're thinking about 12 hours to watch that trilogy.
Yeah,
and
I mean, you could watch the.
You have to love that world.
You could watch the first 6 Star Wars movies in the same time it would take to watch them.
Yeah. Honestly, I wonder even with the Lord of the Rings if it would have been more enjoyable if they had done it as a series that would have been under.
We can't talk about what we're going to get. People are going to come after us. We talk about the Lord of the Rings series.
I don't care. I only saw one.
No,
of them.
I'm not talking about.
I saw 1.5.
I'm kidding.
Of the trilogy, I saw 1.5, and I read the books. Don't get all over me.
Well, who knows? Maybe they'll make it Back to the Future TV show instead of movies. It can happen. I mean, they're doing Harry Potter as a TV show. They're doing Twilight as a TV show now.
I mean, BTTF world, they could just do an alternate timeline and carry on with whoever wants to be on it.
At some point, they have to be able to do it, or it's going to be called something similar to Back to the Future, but everybody's going to know, Rick and Morty.
Where its origin.
Rick and Morty is different.
Yeah, just arguably one of the most fun things ever.
Exactly. Well, I think that's a good place to wrap up right now. We're pushing an hour here. So, yeah, everyone, thanks for watching, listening. Again, if you have any problems with us personally or specifically or generally, please let us know. Leave comments. Give us a 5-star review. Shoot us an email at antimattermovies@gmail.com if you have any thoughts, recommendations for future movies.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Or if you want to submit some bad puns for me to mention on the show, you're welcome to do that as well.
Yeah, and I think if people also want us to talk more about Back to the Future, there's a lot more that can be
we
about,
could really, we're not at a lacking for material or words.
Yeah,
Yeah, we could spend infinite amount of time on most of these movies.
We didn't even get into the other stuff like the accurate wheels for that, or
my
we got arm being broken
here.
in Monument Valley where they filmed the Indian scenes.
There we go.
Yes,
Navajo
Evan
country,
managed
so we
to
could
break
do
his
more.
arm while we were doing car mounting it was Monument Valley, I'm pretty sure, where you broke it.
It was.
Right?
Pretty cool.
We were working with a 1977 Ford Bronco.
Very good
with,
memory. Lifted 77 Bronco with 33-inch wheels on a trailer, and then we mounted the camera mount on top.
Where we filmed also was where they filmed the marathon running scenes for what was it?
Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks. Forrest Gump. Yeah.
Forrest Gump.
So Evan,
which is also Bob Zemeckis.
Oh, wow. And scene.
That's a future podcast episode right there.
Right,
so.
there you go. Forrest
Great.
Gump.
Well, yeah, everyone, take care, and we'll see we can't see you. Hear from you. I don't know, whatever.
It depends on if they have an avatar or something. I'm just glad when you said two people, and he was talking about Michael J. Fox and Chris Lloyd talking. I was like, oh, he's being funny. Like the two people he thinks are going to watch this. I hope it's more than two of you.
Yeah, something like that. Okay, bye, everyone. See you
Bye.
next time.
Bye.
Toodles.